Hey, what's up everyone? Today I'm going to do a fair comparison between PlastiDip and vinyl wrap, which means both will be a complete DIY project. Absolutely no professionals involved. First, I want to tell you how I plan on discussing the pros and cons of the product so I don't get bashed for repeating myself during the analysis. When I mention a disadvantage of one product, I will mention the advantage of the other product if they happen to have one. Additionally, I'm not sponsored by anyone. I bought everything with my own money and I don't have a bias for either product. Before anyone thinks I'm a PlastiDip fanboy, I want to start out with all the negatives of PlastiDip, in no particular order except the first one, because it applies to almost every aspect of PlastiDip. PlastiDip is expensive, especially if you're doing a full car. The cost is the reason I took so long to do this video. I wanted to buy a full car kit to do my motorcycle and my car in a matching color, but I would have to spend over $1,000 just to get the advanced sprayer, a large real red California kit, which would be a typical setup if you had a large sedan anyway, so doing my Corvette and my motorcycle wouldn't make this unfair. With vinyl on the other hand, I spent just over $70 for enough 3M 1080 series vinyl, and about $50 more for all the other accessories to make the installation easier. And with an additional $200, I could have bought enough vinyl for my Corvette as well. PlastiDip is very prone to marring and scratching, and there's really nothing you can do about it. This is not to say that PlastiDip won't survive in your car under normal driving, but it can get damaged significantly easier than vinyl. PlastiDip is also not chemical resistant, and every trip to the gas station could lead to your PlastiDip being ruined or having surface imperfections. Vinyl is more abrasion resistant, especially to marring, and even some have self-healing properties against minor scratches, and I have not heard of vinyl being destroyed by gasoline. While PlastiDip has developed a new product to further protect dip, this is an added expense of approximately $200 to $300 and only applies to their more expensive product line. If you're anything like me, with your newly applied dip, you have been driving around more because you want to be noticed, but nobody wants to be noticed in a dirty car. But you can't just run through the car wash because PlastiDip requires special attention and special care to not peel the dip off your car, which again adds to the expense because the most appropriate things to care for dip are expensive and are sold exclusively by DYC on their website. Vinyl can be pretty much cared for by the same products you would have used before installing it. Which reminds me of another disadvantage. For most of us, the website is the only way to get any of the products sold by DYC, and this may mean shipping charges and wait times for a simple task, again adding to the expenses associated with a dipped car. And despite the effort of Fonzie, shipping alone can be a deterrent in some areas. Well, if they even ship PlastiDip products to your area, because here in California, not all product lines are available, which further restricts the freedom we have with PlastiDip, but especially the colors. Color availability with PlastiDip is limited not so much by the color itself, but by the final finish, which means you're probably not getting a true high gloss and can only get matte or satin finish on your car. And different colors add expenses to an already expensive project. Here again, vinyl a clear winner because the color options are virtually unlimited and very cheap. PlastiDip requires that you have a large work area to get the best results and prevent contamination. This really sucks if you don't have a garage, and while it can be done out in the open, it is less than ideal and invites contaminants to ruin the final product. Vinyl can be applied indoors if outside conditions are less than ideal and you don't need a whole bunch of room. Okay, that was a lot of negative stuff. So why even bother with PlastiDip? Well, because PlastiDip is extremely easy to use, super beginner friendly, and will even cover up some of your inadequacies as a painter. PlastiDip is very forgiving of mistakes and can even be carefully fixed after the full cure time in some instances. Vinyl, on the other hand, is not forgiving. It's tedious and extremely difficult to get right. PlastiDip is so easy to apply that I was able to paint the front portion of my motorcycle while my wife made breakfast, and it wasn't even a warm day, but PlastiDip was able to spray nicely and provide good coverage. This is the complete opposite of vinyl. One small section takes hours to get right, especially if it has a lot of contours and deep recessed areas. If you have some sort of surface imperfection, PlastiDip makes it easier to repair because you can just apply some more product or you can use wet sanding to try to alleviate it. And if you think that PlastiDip is not able to be blended well, you're wrong. Look at this part of my tank. I actually spot corrected it with PlastiDip and it looks amazing. Once vinyl is damaged, The only way you can get it to look like nothing happened would be with a new section, and that can be difficult, especially over a large area. Last, but definitely not least, Dip Your Car has the gold standard of customer service and support. They will talk to you and help you through your project. Even Fonzie, the owner of DYC, will interact with customers to answer questions and help them along with just about anything. There's also a Facebook page that is strictly monitored for trolling and hazing to ensure only accurate information is passed on so that everyone feels welcome and comfortable asking questions. A lot of the people answering questions are professionals who dip cars every day, and they are more than happy to share their knowledge and experience with you. At some point, I saw a fundraiser to help someone get a car kit shipped to them. If you're doing vinyl, you're pretty much on your own and you have very little references to use to help you along. Now let's talk about the disadvantages of vinyl, and although they're not as many, they are critical. Vinyl wrapping is extremely difficult. The learning curve is very steep and there are no real resources to help. Sure, 3M and CK Wraps have videos that kinda help, but they don't commit to any one solution. Instead, they talk about what feels right and concepts that will only come after a lot of experience. 3M shows how to tackle deep recessed areas, and they realistically only show a small recessed area that's not very helpful, especially for contours of a motorcycle. CK Wraps, who seems to do this for a living, has a video in which he wrapped a gas tank, and the video is over 1 hour long, and that's with editing, and he is clearly frustrated by the process. PlastiDip might take an hour to finalize the project, but a lot of the time is spent waiting for the different coats to dry. But still, I have managed to do small projects like a gas tank in less than an hour, and that included prep time. Like I mentioned earlier, PlastiDip comes with help from various reliable sources and with very specific way to approach almost every situation you can think of. While the color options are basically unlimited, the different colors add more difficulty to an already difficult task. If you're doing something like wood grain, carbon fiber, or stainless steel look, you're going to have more problems with it, and it will be more critical not to overstretch the vinyl and to make sure that if you need two separate pieces to meet, that the grain matches up correctly. Again, super difficult, super tedious, super frustrating, and not at all intuitive. While PlastiDip doesn't have all the color options, if you follow the recommended steps, your final product will be amazing. Okay, maybe not amazing, but if you follow the recommended steps, your final product will more than likely be a good end product with minimal effort. Okay, so going back to deep recessed areas, CK Wraps talked about inlays and how to use them, and while it's a nifty trick and it's not super noticeable with certain colors, it's also a difficult task and it's not intuitive. There's no way of knowing exactly when the vinyl will be unable to stretch enough to cover your deep recessed section until you have made an irreversible mistake. Additionally, the more contours and bends your car or motorcycle has, the more inlays you might need. And that just adds complexity, and nothing says you won't overestimate your skills, the stretchability of vinyl, and underestimate the difficulty of wrapping. This is more than likely because wrapping doesn't scale well, which means that to wrap a small section, it takes practically no skill, but the second you try to scale it up, and now you're dealing with curves and contours, you're in uncharted territory, and the consequences are wrinkles and surface imperfections that you will not be able to fix. PlastiDip is able to reach anywhere because it's a spray that can reach anywhere and will conform to the shape of the object by simply spraying. And also because PlastiDip is so forgiving, even if you make a little mistake, either the PlastiDip itself will cover it up for you or you can try to fix it when it cures. It took me, an inexperienced DIY person, over 5 hours just to get one piece of my motorcycle wrapped. I started with what appeared to be the most basic section, but even that took forever and it was not perfect. I like to think I'm a perfectionist, but after battling with vinyl for hours and hours, I finally settled in whatever just gets it done. Even after I completely wrapped my motorcycle, I felt like I had learned nothing about the process and I didn't get any faster or any better at tackling contours and recessed sections. I was so overwhelmed by the process that despite having enough product left over to rewrap a few sections of the motorcycle to try to make it look better, I definitely won't. With PlastiDip, I feel more comfortable doing larger projects because despite not using the appropriate tools for the job, I ended up with a really good finished product and it was only a fraction of the time to accomplish it. The advantages of vinyl is that it's cheap, that you can get it in any color combination you can think of, and it can be accomplished just about anywhere. Oh, and I almost forgot, you can make decals super easily as long as you have something to cut it with, like a Cricut machine. I really wanted vinyl to work for me because it's so cheap. I figured I could change the look of my cars and have different looks on my motorcycle relatively inexpensive. But after spending over 24 hours of labor on my bike just to end up with a mediocre wrap job, I don't think I will ever do this again full scale. I will continue to buy vinyl for stickers and decals, but I will definitely not tackle another car or motorcycle with vinyl. PlastiDip continues to prove why it has a strong DIY following, and I look forward to being able to afford a full car kit so I can dip all my cars. And although there's a lot of expenses associated with a dip car, it's a feasible option for a DIY person who wants to change the color of their vehicle. Lastly, if you're only doing motorcycle race fairings, going with paint might be a really good option, especially if you're only looking for high gloss black. Shred Dog Hydrographics does an amazing job with paint, and he quoted me $600 for high gloss black if he doesn't need to do any repairs.